Chapter 2, Creatures of the Isle. There was life on the island. Prospero saw crabs and birds, bushy-tailed monkeys swooping through the trees, and small pigs rooting in clearings. Well, at least there'll be plenty to eat and drink, he thought. The clear blue sea was rich in fish, and mussels clustered on the rocks where the waves lapped. There were nuts and berries and running streams of fresh water, but he saw no people. So now we are the king and princess of an island, he told his little daughter, but our only subjects are wild creatures. At the very heart of the island he found a cave in a domed rock, and he decided to make this their home. He made a curtain to hang across the opening. Then he lugged the chest into the cave and set out the things Gonzalo had rescued for him. There were clothes and some bundles of material, a long cloak embroidered with strange designs, a sturdy staff, and a small mirror in a gilt frame. There were also books. In the hurry to leave, Gonzalo had only managed to snatch the first few that came to hand, but they were most precious and full of learning, charms, and spells. Prospero spent his days searching for food and wood to make a fire for light and warmth. Sometimes, as he went about his work, he had the feeling that he was being watched. He sensed that there were understanding eyes watching him somewhere. Then he would stand still and look around, but he saw nothing. No, he said to himself, it was some rooting pig or a curious monkey. We're alone here, quite alone. In the evenings he read by the light of their fire. Hour after hour he read, looking up from time to time to keep an eye on Miranda where she played. In this way, Prospero watched her grow. It seemed to him that she became more healthy and more beautiful with each day that passed. As Prospero read and studied, so he gained wisdom. He began to understand all the deepest secrets of nature. In time, all manner of signs and mysteries were revealed to him. More than this, he discovered that the embroidered cloak and the staff had extraordinary properties. With these things, he mastered a kind of rough magic and gained power over nature. Miranda came to love the island. She loved to wander over every part of it, but there was one place that she would not go, the clump of rocks where the twisted pine tree grew. Years ago, lightning had almost split this tree in two, but its roots still gripped the soil and somehow it survived. When it moved in the wind, it seemed to groan with effort, like a creature crying out in pain. She hated its strange, contorted shape and the tortured sounds it gave out. One morning, Miranda set out with her father to collect berries. The bushes up this way are heavy with fruit, he told her, pointing up the slope. Let's go and see. She held back, so he smiled and took her hand. I know, he said, the twisted pine. But it's only a tree, Miranda, and you'll be quite safe with me. So up the slope they went, with the child squeezing her father's hand and staring ahead for the first sign of those dreadful branches. They came into view above the line of bushes, and they made her think of the arms of a drowning man. She shuddered. It was a warm day, and the air hardly stirred, but the pine still moaned and creaked. All the time they gathered berries, her heart thumped, and she stayed close to Prospero. She kept glancing at the pine, half expecting it might start moving towards them. Now we have enough, Prospero said at last. We can go back. Miranda turned away from the spot with relief and began to run down the slope. But there was something in her path that made her stop in her tracks. She saw that a creature had appeared behind them. It was a dozen paces away, digging in the dirt with long fingers. The sight was so unexpected that she cried out. The creature twisted its head around and bared its teeth at them. She felt her father's arm around her shoulders and moved closer to him. The creature remained crouching and glaring. It looked almost human, except that its skin was rough and scaly, and its teeth were sharp like a dog's. It was making a low, growling sound in its throat. For a moment, none of them moved, Then it scuttled forwards and stopped, snarling and threatening. Gah! 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 It rasped at them. Stay where you are, shouted Prospero. He pointed at it with his staff and looked in his eye. And the look in his eye kept the creature from coming any closer. It was held there by magic of Prospero's staff, glaring and rocking on its heels. Caliban! It growled. Caliban! It was saying its name. Caliban became their servant, fetching wood for them and gathering food. To begin with, he could say his name, but nothing else. His only other sounds were roars or sullen growls, and he often directed these at Prospero and the child. The old duke, though, did not return his anger. He showed the poor beast kindness and was patient with him. One day, Caliban found Miranda on her own and tried to attack her. Her frightened screams brought Prospero running. His eyes blazed with anger, and he cast a spell on Caliban, which racked him with pinches and cramps. From that day on, Prospero kept a careful watch over the creature, and punished him whenever he became surly or troublesome. So Caliban learned to be obedient, like a dog, and Miranda stopped being afraid of him. He was always quarrelsome, often spiteful, but she knew he couldn't harm her while her father was around. Caliban puzzled her, though. He sounded like a dog sometimes, and he smelled like a fish, but he looked more like a man. He walked like a man, almost, and he was able to understand things the way a man does. Prospero taught him to speak, and, in time, he was able to explain how he came to be on the island. In Algiers, Caliban told them, there was once a witch named Sycorax. She had a great power, but she used it only for evil, so the people of Algiers banished her to this island. Here she gave birth to a child, and that child was Caliban. So you lived here alone? Prospero asked him. No, growled Caliban. She had a spirit who did her bidding. And what became of this spirit? He would not do as he was told, so Sycorax punished him. She shut him up where he could not get out. Caliban gave a scowling laugh. And then she died, so he's still there, still penned in to this very day. Where? Where is he? Miranda didn't need to hear his answer. She knew where the spirit was imprisoned, in the twisted pine tree. And she knew that Prospero would go there to see for himself. The next day they made their way to the clump of rocks where the pine tree grew, and Prospero stood before it with his eyes closed. He lifted his powerful staff above his head and sang out strange words that Miranda had never heard before. There was a rumble of thunder, and she turned to see the dark cloud rolling off the sea and gathering to hang over them. For a moment they were smothered by darkness, then drenched in a vivid white. Lightning jagged down like a spear and struck into the wood of the tree. The pine split open, the cloud went back out to sea, leaving a curtain of smoke swirling around the tree. As it cleared, Miranda saw a frail figure kneeling on the ground, its head bowed. It looked up at Prospero. It had the pale, delicate face of a child, with large dark eyes and smooth skin which seemed to glow. My master, it said in a musical voice, you have freed me, and now I am your slave. Whatever you command me, I will do, be it fly or swim, to dive in the fire or ride on the clouds. So, now they had two servants, lumbering, moody Caliban, and this fragile spirit of light, Ariel.